What's up, guys? So today's the day we finally finished this intercooler. The weather is pretty good. It's a little bit wet from yesterday, but not too bad. New gaskets came in for the supercharger, so I did a little bit of the work already. Let me show you where I'm at, and I'll show you what we're getting ready to do. So I already yanked the supercharger off. The only thing I would say about that, it was pretty easy to get off. You guys know probably how to pull a supercharger anyway, but I did have to loosen this front fuel rail to get enough room to get the supercharger physically out. But I got it out of the way now, so it's ready for prep. But first, we're going to go ahead and put this intercooler core in here and get it just in the right place with the gasket. Then we'll prep the supercharger to go back on. Sorry I didn't film it, but I went ahead and placed this gasket. That's the 07 Plus style supercharger gasket, the factory one, and put the intercooler core on to make sure it would fit. And it does fit, and it does sit on the dowels, which is nice. So it's in there good and solid. It will not move. A couple things I'm thinking about right now is this alternator brace, for it to work, is going to have to come up quite a bit. So I don't know if that's going to cause fitment issues or what, but I'm going to go ahead and take it completely off for right now, and then I can figure out what I need to do to get it back on later. But this way it'll just be out of my way for the moment. And other than that, everything looks really good. It sits in here like it's supposed to. It's a little snug to the rail on this side, well, really on both sides, but it does fit. So I think I'm going to go ahead and snug the rail back down because it's pretty much where it's going to be. And I may look at some hose routing next. Get this out of the way. As you can see, it does have a little bit of room right there. This is going to be really close, so I may have to try to see if I can pivot that. Oh, it will pivot. So I'll snug that down, pivot it down like that. Then with it out of the way, shouldn't have any trouble getting those two hoses out here. And a few minutes later, I've got all of the tubing run. This is about as good as I could get it here, up through here. I've got my ZZP fill kit put in right there with enough slack that it will move far enough away, I think, to be able to get that out, but still sit pretty tight to that when I'm not using it. Then over here, I've got that here. I highly recommend, if you can get this in here well enough, maybe start a couple bolts and do all your plumbing with the supercharger out, because it's so much easier than doing it with the supercharger in your way. Forgive the harsh sunlight here, but the first bit of supercharger prep that I've got to do, we've got the pulley off. This is the 3.5 inch pulley that I've been using. That's coming off, not going back on. And we're going to be installing the ZZP belt wrap kit, which sits right here. And I've got 3 bolts that I've basically got to take out here, and I've got to replace them with the 3 bolts that it came with when I get it done. So I'm going to get that on, and then I'll show you what pulley we're going to be running. And this is what everything looks like installed. Probably see it better when it's on the car. And this is the 3.3 inch pulley from ZZP that we're going to be swapping in here. So now I've just got to swap the throttle body. I'll show you what I'm going to do there. And here is the ZZP throttle body adapter. As far as this goes, a couple comments. One, it doesn't turn it down that far, which is kind of unfortunate. I think this would do great for the regular Gen 5 because it wouldn't have this right here, and the motor I think is over here, so it would be down lower. But for this setup, it's not super great, so I'm not sure how well that's going to work. I'll know once I get it in the car. Other than that, it does make it a little longer, so this hose won't reach anymore, so I'll need another hose, which that's not a big deal, and then some slight rerouting of stuff here, but I'm not too worried about that. So now we need to get it on the car and see what else we're going to have to do to make this work. Okay, so after getting this installed and trying to put the belt on, I realized the belt was wrong and went through a bunch of stuff which I did not record, but so let me just recover a couple things really quick. The 685 belt, which is the one that I thought was going to be the right size for this setup, did not fit. I had to go back and get, I think, a 705 to get it to work. But as you can see, the belt is on and tensioned now, so everything's good there. Here's where I ran the hoses. The only problem I'm having is I'm having a little bit of problem getting enough space to put the fuse cover back on, so I've got to figure that out, but I'll work on that some more in just a minute. And everything else pretty much bolted up just right. I switched out my 45 for a straight right here. That got that angled pretty much where I want it. You can see where the adapter is and everything. Everything else bolted up pretty normal. The alternator support bracket doesn't bolt up right anymore because now this end is too high versus the other end. But I got everything to mount up without it. So I think I'm going to leave it off for right now, and if I don't have any problems, I'll just leave it off. If I do, I'll figure out how to put it back then, but I'll need to do some spacing probably of the other side. I ran a power wire off one of the switched fuses here to, and then a ground right here to this little harness to power the pump down here, which now works. There you can once again see my tubing. I did lower the pump down a little bit to make some room for the fog light, so hopefully that's taken care of now, because I test fit it the other day and it was a little too snug. So it's mostly together. Like I said, I tried to bleed it as best I can. I'll go ahead and tell you that's a pain on this. It's really hard to get the air out to let you put coolant in, especially filling it this way. It may work a lot better if you fill it using the big port on the front mount. I don't know, I may change that later, but everything is functional. I got the hoses to where they're not touching either of the belts, which is really tight, but I got it, so it's there. So the only main thing I've got left to do now is I've got to get this bumper back on, make sure that it fits and there isn't any problem there, and then button up the stuff under the hood, and then see if I can close the hood, because I don't actually know if I can. Okay, so after a little more work, we're pretty much just about there. I still can't quite get this lid back in here, but I'll figure that out later. But for right now, the only other issue, the battery had died, so I had to stop to charge that, but I've got that straightened out now too. The belt's looking good. That 710 belt does fit. It looks like it's supposed to. Everything works, it runs and everything. The only other problem I have is when you shut the hood, this is contacting right here, just barely it looks like, and this is contacting right here. So I'm going to need to probably do a little bit of trimming of the under hood support braces there to get that to fit correctly. So that's not too big of a deal, and you can force it shut, but it just contacts those 2 points, so it's not exactly right. So that is about it for me today. It's done. The install is in there. Any other questions you guys have, drop them down in the comments and I'll try to answer everything that I can. But it's in and working. I'll do another video later and get all the tuning straight. Then we'll be taking this back to the dyno and back to the drag strip, and we'll see what all of this work we've done this year actually does. So drop me a like, drop me a comment, and let me know what you thought. Make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.